The moment he walked into the office, nobody knew who he really was. The hum of fluorescent lights, the clicking of keyboards, and the faint smell of burnt coffee created an ordinary Monday morning, but nothing about today was ordinary. He's the kind of man whose name is on the building, whose face appears in press releases, and whose signature closes multi-million-dollar deals. Yet here he is, blending into the crowd, carrying a plain black backpack and wearing the kind of casual shirt that makes him disappear in a sea of employees. His heart beats faster, but not from fear. This is anticipation, the thrill of stepping into a world he controls, but has never truly seen. Everyone around him is talking, laughing, complaining about deadlines, gossiping about management, and little do they know, their every word is being observed by the very person who decides their fate. He starts his day at the front desk, fumbling slightly with the sign-in sheet, and immediately a voice cuts through the hum. It's sharp, mocking, almost like a whip cracking. "You don't even know how to do this, right?" The manager sneers, leaning over with an expression that's half annoyance, half amusement. No formal introduction, just ridicule. The other employees glance up, uncertain how to react. Some stifle laughs, others look embarrassed, but he stays calm. On the surface, he smiles politely, nods and responds with neutral words, yet inside, every insult lands like a blade. This isn't the first time he's faced criticism, but hearing it from someone he's trusted to run part of his empire, someone he's invested time, money, and mentorship into, it's different. It's personal. As he moves through the office, he notices subtle patterns that nobody else thinks about. Employees whispering about unfair workloads, schedules that seem deliberately designed to create stress, and favoritism so blatant it's almost comical if it weren't tragic. He observes the same manager, the one who insulted him, walking past employees with an air of superiority, barking orders with no regard for their effort or feelings. He notes the tension, the frustration etched on the faces of workers who have been silenced for far too long. And yet, they keep showing up every day, putting on their masks of politeness, just like he does now. The real shock isn't the insult, it's the system that allows someone like this to thrive while everyone else struggles quietly. The day escalates quickly. He's assigned a task in the warehouse. A mundane job by most standards, but one that exposes the raw reality of the workforce. Boxes are mislabeled, machines are outdated, and safety protocols are ignored. He sweats, strains, and pushes through physical labor that he's never had to endure, all while the manager critiques his every move. "Do it like this, not like that. Are you even paying attention?" The tone is dismissive, condescending, and yet, nothing he does is right in this person's eyes. Other employees watch silently, knowing any attempt to help might be taken as insubordination. And still, he keeps going, taking mental notes, observing who works with integrity, who cuts corners, and who thrives under pressure. Lunch break reveals more than just exhaustion. It uncovers the gossip, the unspoken truths that circulate behind closed doors. Employees talk about colleagues who were let go for minor mistakes, rumors about favoritism, and complaints that management never addresses. One worker whispers about a missed promotion, another about being passed over for recognition, and yet another sighs, "We all know who really runs this place, but it's not who you think." The manager who insulted him earlier sits at a nearby table, laughing loudly at something trivial, oblivious to the silent judgment happening around him. It becomes clear. The problem isn't the employees, it's the culture, the leadership, and the arrogance of those entrusted with responsibility. By mid-afternoon, tensions rise. The manager assigns a high-pressure task, one that is impossible to complete in the time allowed. He watches as employees scramble, making mistakes that would normally warrant criticism, yet they endure it quietly, afraid of retaliation. He steps in subtly, offering suggestions, helping streamline processes, but never revealing his true identity. The manager notices and responds with thinly veiled hostility. "You think you know better than me?" The words are meant to intimidate, but the effect is the opposite. He sees clearly now how this person wields power not to guide or inspire, but to belittle, to assert dominance. The revelation is chilling. How much damage has been done simply because of unchecked arrogance and poor leadership. Every observation, every insult, every quiet complaint he hears is recorded in his mind. By the time the workday ends, he has a dossier far more damning than any HR report could ever reveal. He leaves the building, exhausted, hungry, and exhilarated. The world outside seems brighter, more open, almost surreal compared to the microcosm he's just experienced. The final insult from his manager echoes in his mind, not as a slight, but as a key that unlocks the truth. This isn't just about poor leadership, it's about a system designed to protect the wrong people, reward incompetence, and punish diligence. He knows that when the truth comes out, it will shake the foundations of this company and possibly leave more than a few people jobless. The drive home is quiet, the streets bathed in the fading glow of the afternoon sun. He replays the day in his mind, analyzing every interaction, every subtle gesture of arrogance or fear. Each moment tells a story. Each insult reveals a deeper rot in the structure he built. He understands now that being at the top doesn't just mean signing checks or making deals. It means knowing the heartbeat of your company, feeling the pulse of your employees, and confronting the ugliness that hides behind polished reports and quarterly profits. By evening, a decision forms, a plan so precise, so revealing, that it will expose the truth in a way no one sees coming. The manager's arrogance, the employees' silent suffering, the systemic failures, they will all converge, and the fallout will be immediate, brutal, and unforgettable. The next morning begins like any other, but inside the atmosphere is charged with an invisible tension. He returns, this time in a different disguise, observing more closely, listening more intently. Employees greet him casually, offering brief smiles or polite nods, unaware that the person they see is the same man who holds the keys to their futures. The manager who insulted him yesterday is already in motion, barking orders, micromanaging, and asserting dominance as if the world revolves around his whims. He watches silently, noting the patterns, the favoritism, the petty squabbles that the higher-ups overlook or ignore deliberately. Every moment is a lesson, every glance a revelation, and the more he sees, the clearer the truth becomes. This company is teetering on the edge, not because of the employees, but because leadership has lost all sense of responsibility. By mid-morning, he's assigned to a critical project that supposedly requires team collaboration, yet the manager insists on controlling every detail himself. Arguments flare, employees hesitate to speak, and productivity plummets. He intervenes subtly, offering guidance without revealing his identity, gently redirecting conversations, helping team members navigate the chaos. The contrast between his quiet competence and the manager's abrasive control is stark. Employees begin to notice, whispers circulate, and small sparks of hope ignite among the overworked and underappreciated staff. It becomes painfully clear that talent exists everywhere in this office, but it is being suffocated by egos, arrogance, and poor decision-making. Lunch brings an unexpected revelation. In the break room, employees talk openly when they believe no management is listening. One mentions a colleague who was reprimanded unfairly. Another shares a story of personal hardship ignored by HR. The manager walks by, laughing loudly with a group of favored employees, oblivious to the depth of resentment building quietly around him. He takes note of every interaction, every subtle hint of frustration or despair. It's not just about inefficiency. It's about morale, respect, and the psychological toll of toxic leadership. The pieces are falling into place, forming a damning mosaic of negligence and arrogance that threatens the very core of the company. By afternoon, tension escalates to a boiling point. The manager assigns a seemingly impossible deadline, causing panic among the team. Mistakes multiply, tempers flare, and employees are on the verge of breaking down. He steps in once more, correcting errors, streamlining workflow, and offering encouragement, all while keeping his true identity hidden. He witnesses firsthand the effects of a leader who insults, belittles, and undermines instead of guiding. The manager's tone grows harsher as he notices the improvement in productivity, his pride wounded by the invisible hand steering his team toward success. The humiliation he dishes out daily now bounces back indirectly, and the irony is not lost on anyone paying attention. As the day winds down, he observes the quieter, more telling moments. Employees linger at their desks, exhausted but determined, sharing subtle gestures of camaraderie and mutual support that defy the manager's attempts to control them. He watches a young employee quietly helping a colleague, a veteran worker patiently teaching a new hire, and realizes the true strength of this company lies not in its leadership, but in the resilience, skill, and loyalty of its people. The manager remains oblivious, focused only on asserting authority, missing the bigger picture entirely. It's a revelation both inspiring and infuriating. The very individuals capable of driving this company forward are being crushed by the very person meant to support them. By evening, he retreats to a quiet corner to reflect. He has seen enough to know that change is not just necessary, it is urgent. The insults, the toxic behavior, and the systemic failures cannot continue. Yet he also understands the delicate nature of exposing the truth. Every word, every action, every decision must be precise. One misstep could ruin lives, destroy careers, and create chaos beyond repair. He begins crafting a plan that balances justice with strategy, designed to reveal the full extent of the problems while protecting those who deserve to thrive. The tension is palpable, the stakes monumental, and the clock is ticking toward a revelation that will leave the office reeling. As night falls, he reviews every observation, every detail, every insult, and every act of courage he witnessed. The manager's arrogance, employees' silent suffering, and the systemic rot are now documented in his mind with painstaking clarity. He knows that tomorrow will not be ordinary. The plan he is forming will shake the foundations of this company to its core, leaving no one untouched. And while some will face consequences, others will finally receive the recognition and respect they deserve. The scale of the impending revelation is immense, and the anticipation, both for him and unknowingly for those around him, is electric. The following morning arrives heavy with expectation, though nobody in the office senses the storm gathering just beneath the surface. He steps in with deliberate calm, a quiet confidence that contrasts sharply with the usual tension in the air. The employees notice something different, perhaps the way he observes, the subtle focus in his eyes, but no one can pinpoint it. The manager, meanwhile, is already in full force, issuing commands with the same condescending tone, seemingly oblivious to the fact that his empire is about to unravel. Every insult he delivers, every order he shouts, every scornful glance only adds fuel to a chain reaction that he cannot foresee. The office is a powder keg, and every misstep edges it closer to detonation. He's assigned to a client-facing task meant to test employees' ability under pressure. The manager insists on micromanaging, critiquing everything down to the smallest detail. But as the day unfolds, cracks in the system appear. Employees falter not because of incompetence, but because of the constant fear and humiliation instilled by someone who wields authority without accountability. He quietly intervenes, guiding the team, smoothing conflicts, and correcting errors, demonstrating a competence that leaves even the most skeptical colleagues impressed. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, Yet it becomes clear that the manager's own shortcomings are becoming increasingly exposed. The tension in the room thickens as whispers of "Who is this guy?" circulate quietly. By mid-morning, the manager makes a critical error, miscalculating an important procedure that could jeopardize the entire project. Panic spreads among the staff, eyes darting toward him for guidance. He steps in decisively, correcting the problem in real time, while simultaneously deflecting attention from himself. Employees begin to realize that leadership does not always come from titles or arrogance, but from competence, respect, and the willingness to act decisively when it matters most. The manager, sensing his control slipping, becomes more hostile, targeting employees with sharper insults and increasingly irrational demands. Each outburst is a thread in the unraveling fabric of his authority. Lunch breaks bring revelations hidden in casual conversations. Employees discuss past injustices, missed promotions, favoritism, and humiliations that have become normalized. One whispers about a colleague who was publicly reprimanded for minor mistakes, another about an entire team that was denied bonuses despite exceeding targets. The manager, oblivious to these discussions, continues his own narrative of superiority. The dissonance between his perception and reality is staggering, a gap so wide it threatens to collapse the entire structure he believes he controls. He takes note of every story, every expression of frustration, and every subtle act of quiet resistance. These pieces will become the backbone of the revelation that is about to shake the office to its core. The afternoon brings a crucial turning point. The manager issues an impossible deadline, creating chaos, stress, and fear. Employees scramble, mistakes multiply, and tempers flare. He steps in subtly, streamlining tasks, calming nerves, and directing the team toward solutions, all while maintaining the guise of an ordinary employee. His actions contrast starkly with the manager's erratic behavior, highlighting a glaring truth. Leadership is not about authority or fear, but about guidance, empathy, and strategic thinking. The realization spreads quietly among the staff. Someone is leading without needing to assert dominance. Someone is protecting them even as the manager punishes and belittles. By late afternoon, small sparks of rebellion ignite. Employees start to question instructions, challenge unnecessary criticism, and share ideas more openly, emboldened by the silent support surrounding them. The manager, unaware that his authority is eroding, grows desperate, resorting to harsher words and more controlling measures. His insults, once intimidating, now land with less effect. The subtle shift in dynamics is palpable. The power that seemed absolute is beginning to fracture. He notes the faces of those who rise to the occasion, those who crumble under pressure, and those who quietly endure, creating a comprehensive picture of the human impact of toxic leadership. As the workday draws to a close, he retreats to a quiet corner, reflecting on the revelations and patterns of the day. The manager's arrogance, the employees' resilience, and the systemic failures have now converged into a clear, undeniable truth. The organization has been silently suffering under the weight of poor leadership, favoritism, and unchecked pride. He formulates the next stage of his plan, understanding that it must be executed flawlessly to expose the entire network of dysfunction, to hold the responsible accountable, and to protect those who have endured injustice for far too long. The tension is electric, the stakes monumental, and the anticipation is now almost unbearable for anyone who might sense the storm approaching. Evening descends, and the city outside glows with a calm that contrasts the storm building inside the company walls. He reviews every insult, every mistake, every act of courage, and every subtle resistance he witnessed. He knows the moment of truth is imminent, the revelation that will leave employees stunned, the manager exposed, and the office in chaos. The seeds of upheaval are planted, And tomorrow, the world within these walls will no longer be the same. Those who deserve to thrive will finally have their chance, and those who betrayed their responsibility will face consequences so public and undeniable that no one will forget. The next day begins with an unusual stillness. Employees arrive, sensing the tension but unsure why, as if the air itself is holding its breath. He steps into the office, calm and composed, yet internally every nerve is alert. Today is different. Today, the plan begins to unfold. He starts by observing quietly, noting the manager's patterns, the subtle hesitations of employees, the microaggressions that have gone unnoticed for far too long. The manager strides through the office, confident and sharp-tongued, oblivious to the storm about to descend on his carefully curated image of authority. The staff exchange wary glances, not knowing that the invisible hand steering events is someone with the ultimate power to decide their fate. The morning escalates rapidly. The manager assigns a high-pressure task that has never been completed successfully, ensuring maximum tension. Employees scramble, nerves fraying under stress, while he steps in subtly, guiding workflows, offering support, and resolving bottlenecks with effortless precision. Each intervention illuminates the contrast between real leadership and the manager's erratic control. Employees start noticing the difference, efficiency rising under subtle guidance, while the manager grows increasingly frustrated, his frustration visible in clenched jaws and sharp words. His mockery becomes harsher, revealing his fear that something is slipping from his grasp. By mid-morning, whispers circulate. Staff members begin sharing stories of past slights, missed opportunities, and humiliations. One employee quietly recounts being humiliated in front of clients for a mistake that wasn't theirs. Another speaks of favoritism that consistently denied them recognition. The manager remains oblivious, distracted by minor mistakes, while he records every detail in his mind. Every revelation, every subtle act of defiance, every gesture of resilience is catalogued, building an undeniable picture of systematic mismanagement and abuse. The employee's silent suffering becomes painfully clear, and the truth crystallizes. This office has been run into the ground not by incompetence, but by arrogance and cruelty masquerading as leadership. Lunch arrives, and with it, the tipping point. Conversations grow bolder, emboldened by the invisible presence guiding them. Employees share experiences that paint a grim picture of favoritism, inequality, and harassment. The manager overhears fragments, growing suspicious, his attempts to assert control becoming increasingly erratic. He observes the subtle dynamics, noting who speaks freely, who hesitates, and who aligns with the invisible guide, orchestrating quiet order amidst chaos. The contrast between fear and competence, arrogance and integrity grows ever sharper. The employees, without realizing it, begin to understand the cracks in the system are larger than anyone could have imagined. Afternoon brings direct confrontation. The manager escalates the pressure, targeting employees with unjust criticism and personal jabs meant to reassert authority. Mistakes happen, not because of incompetence, but because of fear and the impossible workload. He steps in again, offering guidance, smoothing tensions and resolving conflicts, all while maintaining his undercover role. The contrast between real leadership and the manager's ineffective control is undeniable. Employees begin to quietly rally around the competence they see, even if they do not yet know who is providing it. The manager's authority starts to crumble under the weight of his own arrogance, and for the first time, the employees sense that the invisible presence among them may be more powerful than the person he mocks. As the workday winds down, he moves into the final phase. Carefully, he begins revealing discrepancies, favoritism, and inefficiencies in subtle ways that cannot be ignored. Evidence is presented through reports, workflow audits, and the quiet voices of employees empowered to speak up. The manager's reactions range from disbelief to panic, his arrogance colliding with the undeniable proof of his failures. Employees watch, shocked and vindicated, as the truth unfolds in real time. The realization hits. The arrogance that insulted, belittled, and mismanaged has finally been exposed. The consequences are immediate, undeniable, and irreversible. By evening, the office is transformed. Employees gather quietly, sharing a mix of relief, disbelief, and anticipation. Some laugh nervously, others exchange glances of solidarity, and a few shed tears of frustration finally acknowledged. The manager who insulted, humiliated, and misused authority is confronted with the consequences of his actions, publicly and transparently. Positions are reconsidered, responsibilities reassigned, and a culture of respect and competence begins to emerge from the ashes of mismanagement. He reflects quietly, knowing that the day's revelations have not just changed the office, they have changed lives, exposing truths that were long hidden and providing justice where it was overdue. The morning after the revelations begins with an eerie calm. Employees arrive with cautious optimism, still processing the events that unfolded yesterday. The office feels different, lighter, yet charged with a newfound energy. The manager who insulted and belittled staff now walks with a hesitant step, aware that his authority has crumbled. Whispers follow him like shadows, and every glance from colleagues carries the weight of yesterday's truth. The employees, once subdued by fear and frustration, now move with subtle confidence, quietly testing the waters of a new dynamic. The balance of power has shifted, and the air is thick with anticipation for what comes next. He enters the office one final time, still undercover, observing the transformation he has catalyzed. He sees employees sharing knowledge freely, collaborating without fear, and even the quietest staff members speaking up with ideas that are acknowledged and respected. It's a stark contrast to the environment dominated by arrogance and ridicule. The manager, forced to confront the consequences of his behavior, attempts to assert control, but his voice lacks the sharpness it once had. Employees now respond with professionalism and confidence, no longer intimidated by someone whose position alone once commanded obedience. The culture is changing before his eyes, evidence that leadership rooted in competence and respect, rather than fear, can indeed transform a workplace. By mid-morning, the final acts of accountability unfold. Human resources and senior executives, guided by the insights he gathered during his undercover days, address the issues systematically. Employees who were unjustly reprimanded, passed over for promotions, or silenced are given recognition and opportunities long overdue. Policies are restructured and training programs introduced to ensure fairness and transparency. The manager who once insulted him faces public scrutiny and accountability for the toxic behavior that poisoned the workplace. The magnitude of the consequences is immediate, leaving employees shocked, vindicated, and in some cases emotional, as justice is meted out in a way that feels both dramatic and overdue. Afternoon brings a sense of closure and reflection. Employees gather in small groups, sharing their experiences, the relief of being heard, and the satisfaction of witnessing overdue justice. Laughter, tentative at first, spreads through the office, replacing the tension and fear that once hung in the air. He observes quietly, noting the resilience, intelligence, and dedication of staff who endured months, sometimes years, of mismanagement. It becomes evident that the company's real strength never lay in titles or authority, but in the people who performed their work with integrity and skill, even in a toxic environment. The manager's fall, while dramatic, serves as a powerful lesson about the cost of arrogance, incompetence, and neglect. And, as evening approaches, he finally steps out of the shadows. In a carefully orchestrated moment, he reveals his true identity to the staff, exposing that the entire undercover exercise was designed not as a punishment, but as a reckoning. Shock, awe, and disbelief ripple through the office. Employees realize the full extent of what they witnessed, the contrast between toxic leadership and true competence, the consequences of unchecked arrogance, and the courage of those who work diligently despite adversity. The office erupts in applause, cheers, and in some cases, tears of relief. The story of humiliation, arrogance, and eventual accountability becomes more than a lesson. It becomes a shared experience that redefines loyalty, leadership, and respect within the company. By nightfall, the office is transformed. Employees leave with renewed confidence, a sense of justice, and a vision of a workplace where respect and competence are valued above fear and arrogance. The manager who insulted, belittled, and mismanaged faces consequences that are public, undeniable, and instructive, while the employees who endured gain recognition and empowerment. He reflects quietly, knowing that the experiment has succeeded. The truth revealed, injustice confronted, and the company set on a new path. In the end, the story is not just about humiliation or exposure, but about the resilience of the human spirit, the power of observation, and the irreplaceable value of true leadership. And as he walks away, the echoes of the day's events linger, leaving everyone in the office forever changed, aware that the truth, when revealed, has the power to dismantle arrogance and elevate those who deserve it most.